All right, welcome back, everybody, and anybody that's new here, welcome. This is DWS Outdoors, and we like to do a little bit of reviews on this channel. If you guys were around last week, you obviously know that the last review I did was on my Lx-7, and I had a bunch of you guys asking to do a review on my Lx-7, which is Marcum. So the Humminbird is Helix. I have three right now. I have a Humminbird Lx-7 down imaging, but it's ice fishing setup. I'll link that at the end of this video for you guys, so you guys can watch that video if you guys want to see kind of a comparison of the two. I have my Lx-7, that guy right there. Been using that one for years, and then I have an M5 lithium shuttle. So it's basically an LX5, Marcum's like old dial flasher thing. But it's a lithium shuttle, and it's got like a brushless motor or something like that, but it's got a lot of extras on it, so I kept that one around for a spare, so now I have three. I might actually give one of these away. I was thinking about it. If you guys think I should give one of those away, so I was thinking of doing two of those, my iFish Pro, that Otter pop-up, that's a Otter XT hub, it's a 600 denier hub, so those pop-up tents, an auger, some rods and reels, and a couple other things. I think I was going to do like a backpack with some lures and stuff like that for 10,000 subs. And a lot of you guys might not know about that. So if you're new, when we hit 10,000 subs, if it's in the winter, I'm going to do that giveaway. Otherwise, I'll do a different one for the summer, and it'll be equally as good. If you guys have been around for a while, you know I hold up my end of the bargain. I give you guys the best I can give. The other thing I could give is a little buddy here with that whole 10,000 sub giveaway thing for winter, if that happens in the winter. But needless to say, today's video is going to be all about that Lx-7, because you guys asked, so here we go. And I kind of figured there'd be a few people out there trying to compare the Helix 7s versus the Lx-7s and like why you would use either or. So I'm going to go back and forth between with those, and yeah, hopefully I'll help you guys out. Okay, so first off, we're going to start off with this simple thing here. I'm not going to take this whole thing apart, but I'm going to show you the case like I did on the other one. So this has got like a little flap on it. It's got the carry handle that reaches the plastic handle on the inside. This handle did break on me after a couple years, just so you guys know. So I just electrical taped it really good. And actually that's been holding up pretty good, but you can see because it snapped in the middle, it flexes. That used to pinch my fingers if I wasn't wearing gloves. So I just taped it, but I mean, that electrical tape's been holding up for a while, and it kind of works out better that way because it does flex. This has got a little battery door, so you can pull your little charging port out and put it on your charging station like I did. So that way you guys can charge your batteries without taking this whole thing apart. And then one of the first things I wanted to go over here was, I don't know if you guys can see it. Here, let me get the light over here. There you go. So like I said, I'm going to take it all apart, but I sewed in double-sided, so I sewed in into the bottom of my bag here, like down here, a piece of Velcro, so that basically I have a strip of Velcro going across this. I'll take this off so you guys can see it. Head unit off, because so this is a cradle, like a plastic piece, and then it's got your RAM mount top to it, and then your battery sits back here. That's what I was saying about there's a battery door access, so you can reach that, so you don't have to take this all apart, because otherwise it'd be a pain in the butt to just always be taking it apart. But the big thing, like I was saying, is if you can see, that's the end of the Velcro that's on top, and then the one on the bottom ends right there. So what I did is I sewed in the bottom Velcro over here, top Velcro over here, and then I just put tape across the top of this so that it doesn't get ripped up. But it was basically a simple solution to this thing constantly getting dumped out if you picked it up by this handle. So it was like So it was like front heavy. So that was a thing that kept happening. So I just started grabbing it by this handle, but what would happen if you grabbed it by this handle too much is you would pull your leads off. So you would end up grabbing these through this, and you know, you'd unhook your battery and your unit stopped working. You'd try to figure it out, and then you had to take the top off and figure it all out from there. So simple solution was to sew that in there. Helps be handy, know what you're doing. So if you guys get one of these and you want to make sure it's like foolproof, now I can pick it up from however I want. I can pick it up from the corner of this if I want to, and it's not going anywhere because I have this base attached to this. So that was just a simple solution. But let's go into all the the actual units details so you guys get an understanding. But I figured you guys would want to know that up front. Like I said, I don't have a biased opinion. I love the unit for what it does, but it's like there are bad parts of these things, and you guys should know. Okay, so let's get started with this part here. So obviously what I do here, you hold the power button down, it powers it up. This is a real simple thing. Most units do the same thing. What I'm going to do first here is show you guys kind of what I've been using it for. This is the reason I still have this unit, even though I have a Lx-7 and an M5. I kind of figured they all have their place. The Lx-7 is kind of getting to the point where it might replace this, so it just depends. This might be what you guys end up with when I do my giveaway. It just really depends on, you know, what I want to use it for, or if I want to keep a spare around and stuff like that. But what I'm going to do here is show you the reason why I use this one for what I use it for right now. So I'm going to turn on simulator mode, and everybody loves playing with simulator mode, but the biggest thing here is I'm going to let this kind of cycle in, and then I'll come back here. Okay, so this is kind of the best scenario because of the way they do this simulator mode. So you can see the bottom flickering right there. And then obviously right here you can see where the transition of the bottom comes up and a fish came off the bottom. Now obviously it's already off the bottom. You can see, you know, you get your different colors here. But then as it's coming up, it's still a lighter color. So you can see as it gets, you get your darker line. That means it's closer to directly underneath the transition or transducer cone. And then you can see it gets bigger and bigger. And this is basically kind of how I look at it when I'm walleye fishing. The coolest thing is this has kind of like a blown up view. Like you can see it's even darker and darker when it comes into the actual final point where it's, you know, over the top of your bait and it strikes. That is one of the biggest reasons why I like this one. Now, something they don't show too well on here because of speed, and like how they describe, or like how they're showing this part of the unit. When a fish comes up, so you'll get like that same size bar as it's coming up, and you know, it'll get a little bit thicker as it's coming along. But if you watch any of my walleye fishing videos, and I'm fishing with like a rip and wrap or something where they have to chase it down and get it, the coolest thing is once you get them moving, if you can get that fish to move vertically, like so your bait, like they're just jigging the bait here, but if you bounce it like that, like where you bring it up, you can kind of see it there, but they're not, they did this in like a very slow circumstance thing. The way I can tell when a fish is fully committed to bait is if I take it from it right here. So at this point you got the fish off the bottom and you take it from there and you bring it up, what'll happen is you'll actually have a streak of marks coming up when the fish turns from horizontal to vertical to chase you. So what you end up doing is you mark the fish over the distance that it's long. So like, you know, like that's a fat mark. He's kind of chasing, and then they have it hook it right there. But like if you got them chasing and you got them like really chasing hard for a big bait, it creates this streak. And that streak is like an indicator to keep going, and then just stop. Like, you know, like the bait fish thinks it's got away. And at that point, your fish will 9 times out of 10 just cream whatever bait stopped in front of it, because it's already, you know, 5, 6, 7 feet off the bottom. and it's committed. It's fully committed, and you can tell that it's fully committed by that streak. Let me go through some of the other settings here. I'm going to turn this off for a second here, and then I'm going to go to display options. So you have your flasher display, vertical zoom, graph zoom, and then gauge. So like right now I have the gauge display on. The nicest part about the gauge, and if I can get it to focus on that, there we go. So right there, 13.2 volts. It's saying in, you know, whatever feet of water that it was marking last, 8.2 or 4 feet of water. So it tells you how big your transducer cone is, your target adjusted size. So like this is one of the things that I was talking about in my Helix video, is like you can take your target adjust and you can turn that up. And what that does is it makes your actual bait target bigger. So like if you're having a really hard time marking a small jig, you can turn that up. And then your interference rejection, it's got that labeled right there, and then obviously your sensitivity. This is how I've been running it right here with those settings, and this is all for walleye fishing, because obviously I use a bigger bait, so I don't need to use a huge target. My interference rejection is usually like 1 to 4, unless somebody's right on top of me with another Marcum, which seems to be the only thing that really affects this unit. So if you have another Marcum around, you can turn that up to like 5 or 6, and that'll actually block their signal completely out. Sensitivity, the only time I turn that up high is if I'm searching. So if you're hole hopping from hole to hole, you will just turn that up so you can mark any fish outside your cone a little bit better. It makes the beam, this beam, a little bit stronger. And one other thing, so when you guys were watching the simulator, I completely forgot to say this. So the reason those marks looked as big as they did and how that was set up was I have it set to zoom, so it's the bottom 10 feet. It'll look a lot different. And so when I'm walleye fishing, obviously I want to see the bottom real well. I want to see if that bottom moves at all. And then with this, it allows me to do the whole water column, but be very specific with the water column. So you get a little mark there. Something I'll show you guys here in a second, what I'd like to do to set it up for crappie and stuff like that, when you're fishing, you know, suspended crappie or like basin crappie, this will make sense to you guys. Okay, so now I switched it to how I would normally put it for like basin fish. And that's why another reason I like this is the size of this screen with your zoom or your full water column. So this is full water column, and then this is zoom. You can see the difference between a regular sonar and your zoom. Your targets are already bigger, and you get a little bit more target separation in here, which really allows you to get that understanding of like how the fish is moving and stuff like that. I have a couple crappie videos that if you watch, and like you can see that. So like these jagged marks that end up reading back because it doesn't read a smooth arc on the bottom, and it kind of depends on how the fish is moving. Those jagged marks will tell you to keep the bait moving away from it and stuff like that. So this is my bread and butter when it comes to, you know, getting those bottom 5-10 foot crappie to react. But the coolest thing is this. So like you're only marking the bottom 10 here. If a fish comes in, you know, up in this range right here, and you don't see it here, you will see it come across here. So if you're working something here and it goes away and it like disappears down here, you can look up and it'll show up here. And then that's why, you know, you run these two side by side for fishing like deep water basin stuff. And that really helps as far as like not missing a fish that comes through. This has helped me catch a lot more suspended fish over the years compared to traditional flash or anything like that. And I just haven't had an opportunity to really to fish the Helix more for the suspended fish. I have caught them suspended on it, so it does work. But this, I just feel like this gives you that little bit of extra detail that nothing else will, and that's because these guys were ice fishermen for, you know, making an ice fishing flasher. Marcum was. So this is why I really use this one. Okay, so this is one of the ones that I know a lot of people use. So this is a full water column. You can turn this on zoom too, where this is just the bottom. This is the full water column here. So this is one that I know a lot of people use for crappie fishing, and I've had success with it, because you'll mark fish in here, and this is your active, you know, like as soon as a fish is on top of you here, you know. You can kind of see it's got a slight delay, but otherwise this scenario is basically how I've always fished crappie, and then I just kind of switched over to that double screen because it basically gives you that, you know, that opportunity for this to be bigger. But you only get that, you know, the bottom zoom type thing when you run those two together. But if you're looking for something where you can have like a vertical display to jig them on, and then have all this, what do you call that, graph memory or history, it's the graph history, it gives you that opportunity to, you know, if a fish bleeped in and there's just a little mark going by, you'll know you have plenty of time to catch that mark, reel up, jig up into that area, and possibly call them back. And I've done that a ton of times where I've actually seen the little mark, you know, I just caught it right here leaving the screen. I was like, oh, it's at 10 foot. I railed up just to 9 foot, jigged a little bit, went down below 10 foot, went back above 10 foot, and then suddenly there's a fish right underneath your bait. And that works really good. So this scenario right here is like one of my favorites, you know, out of using this, other than that, the zoom that. But I mean, they all kind of work really good. So like even, I'm going to show you guys this last here, and that way you guys get an understanding of like the whole layout. Okay, so here is the original flasher. This is what everybody grows up using, and I hear so many guys, no offense Vexlar guys, but it's almost always you guys saying that you can't use this like that. And this is a digital flasher, so no mechanical stuff can go wrong in here. There's your fish coming up, chasing. That's you catching the fish, bringing it up. You can read your weeds in here, everything. Like, this is a traditional flasher. And then it's digital. So what it does is, instead of only using, you know, if it's 24 feet deep, using from here to here, because it says, you know, like this is your 20-foot section on normal flashers, and then 24 right here. Instead of only using that section, it uses the whole dial. And that would be, so you have different ways of doing this. Let me just go through this real quick. For any of you guys that use, you know, flashers still, and kind of want an understanding why you would even use this flasher per se. So if I go in here and I go into Sonar Settings, and I go through here and I go to range. So you have auto, manual, dynamic, and manual dynamic. So auto will just try to always read that bottom. So if you go auto, it kind of just automatically reads that bottom, you know. So like I was saying before, so like that would be your typical gauge cluster, and then like how big everything looks. And I mean, it's very, this is almost exactly the same as a regular flasher. But if I use manual, and it's 20 feet deep, you know, you could use the whole dial that way, but it's 24 feet deep in the simulator. So, you know, you got to use 40 feet, which is the same thing as like a regular flasher. But if you go in here and you go to dynamic, what it will do is it'll use the whole entire water column of the flasher in order to display that same 24 feet of water. So normally where it was like 24 feet was here, now 24 feet is the entire dial. And that is the biggest reason why you would switch from a traditional flasher to a digital flasher. Like, that is the biggest reason. You get more definition, you get more target separation, everything. I mean, it's just one of those things. Like, to me, it's a no-brainer. But I mean, some people still struggle with the, you know, the idea of switching to something new because it's scary, it's new, it's different, and you know, they're not used to it. But really, that just, it really makes a big difference. And I mean, you have to use it sometimes to get a grasp of what I'm talking about. But so far, perch, crappie, and walleye fishing, this is my go-to unit, basically, still. Like I said, I have been using my Helix, and it's getting kind of like, it's getting to the point where it's closer to this. But I just feel like with the colors and how this is set up, this can still stand on its own. Okay, so the biggest thing here that I want to go and walk through is why I feel like, you know, the ability to use this thing is kind of overlooked by a lot of people. And the thing that hurts me is kind of like when you see somebody grab a good unit. So like there's a lot of lower end great units. They all catch fish. They all help you see what's below the ice. But like when somebody tries to buy an upper end unit and they're spending the same amount of money across the board on most units, it really is one of those like no-brainer things. Like you could get an Lx-7 and you would have the best of all like flasher combos slash like graph mods for ice fishing. Same thing with my Lx-7. If you own a boat, a kayak, a canoe, any of those things, there's no reason you shouldn't buy Helix. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I looked at it. That's the only reason I have both of them, is I have a boat and I had this on my boat actually for a long time and it works fine. I mean, I have it on my I have a trolling motor mount that you can get with this, and the trolling motor mount, you just mount the same ice transducer, or it's a trolling motor transom transducer, whatever you want to say, but you can mount it to the bottom of your trolling motor. I have it on there, and I use this a lot because what happens is when you're fishing with a trolling motor, you can vertical jig over the top of it, so it's like ice fishing. So that was a no-brainer. But then I wanted a transom mounted unit in the back of my boat for my tiller, so that I could watch that when I'm tilling around, and it's got my GPS on it. So now I have my lake maps and all that other stuff. That's the only thing I think that would have made this like an end-all be-all unit, is if they could have had the Lx-7 platform have full GPS capabilities, which I think they went with like an RT9, but I've never experienced anything with them, and I've never heard anything about them that made me want to buy one. So the Helix is what I ended up buying, but I still have the Lx-7, and I have it for a reason. Alright guys, so you guys asked for it, and I gave my best in-depth detailed description of like why I use this thing. It's one of those things, like it's hard to describe really well, I guess you would say, in the house. Like I've tried talking about it while I was on the ice, and I have a lot of videos where like I have that in the video so you can watch it, and I kind of try to talk you through like what's going on. Like right here, like I was saying, so when the bait hits the bottom on the simulator, you see the bottom move. So that's a thing, like most units, even in zoom, so like even my M5, even in zoom, and it's got like a 1/4 inch target separation, if there's a fish glued down into the bottom of the mud, which perch and walleye love to do that thing where they just run along the bottom and the only thing sticking up is their little fin, that will mark that little fin, and it'll like make the bottom shake, and you'll get like waves and ripples. You'll actually be able to see something that I didn't describe. So when the fish are down here, or like a fish is coming into your cone, you'll have like a solid line readout, and what will happen is you'll actually have that solid line readout of the bottom, like what you would call like bottom density, or like what it's made out of. Those solid lines will suddenly like quiver. You'll start seeing these little weird wiggles in it. And that was something I discovered when I was fishing for big walleye, because what I think was happening is the unit is reading a fish on the farthest outside reaches of the cone, possibly even off the bottom. But even with it being off the bottom, it's not showing up in like the actual, like this area up here. So like it won't register that. So what it does is it's like wrecking the feedback that it's getting off of the bottom. So what it does is it's like an interruption. So the bottom quivers. So it kind of gives your brain that like heads up, like there's a fish coming, be ready, stop doing crazy movements with your bait, focus and get dialed into whatever's coming into the thing. You know, you see it come in mid column, crappie or something like that. You see it come towards the bottom, perch or walleye. It helps you out. So it helps you get that mindset going earlier and earlier, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of hooked on the Lx-7 still. I'm, like I said, I've been using the Lx-7 for a while now, and I'm still going to use it. I mean, there's no reason I shouldn't use it. I have it. I bought it for my boat, and I'm going to use it all year round if I can. So that's one of those no-brainer things too. So I hope that helps you guys a little bit more. Okay, guys, so I hope this one helped you guys learn a little bit more about the Helix, or the Lx-7 from Marcum, and I hope you guys, if you're trying to decide whether to get one or not, do it. I mean, it's one of those things. You can't regret it if you learn it. The biggest thing I hear from a lot of guys, and it's just an excuse, this is an excuse, this is all you guys, I'm calling you out. It's too hard to learn. It's not. I just walked through all that stuff with you guys, pushing buttons real quick, and it takes a couple seconds to do that. Most people that can't figure it out are just afraid of technology, and I'm sorry for you guys, because technology is great when you know how to use it. Play with this unit. If you get a chance to, if you have a buddy that has one, see if you can use it first. If you know, that's what I did. I made sure I could use all the units that I've ever wanted to buy, so that way I made, you know, that final decision was based on like, oh well, I like the way it works, I don't see why there's ever been a problem with it, so I'm gonna get it. That's how I pick up things. I always try to know as much as I can about them before purchasing them, and that's why I made this video for you guys, so it helps you guys know as much as you can before making a decision. Otherwise, I hope this helped you guys out. I really do. But obviously, if you're not new here, you know what's up. If you are new, could you please just remember to